This is a one-time because this particularly affects your party. The party seems to be putting its problems behind it to forge ahead, as we saw the NEC meeting hold yesterday. First of all, what do you make of how the party has tried to put itself together?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Remember, the PDP was established in 1998 with the promise of returning power to the people. We had the history of military dictatorship. And for 16 years, the PDP was able to stabilize power. And being a 23-year-old party, the PDP recently was able to resolve its internal crisis, which we saw in yesterday's NEC meeting. And of course, yesterday's NEC meeting has finally resolved the internal squabbles we had over this issue of leadership, who heads the National Working Committee. Of course, we have acting national chairman. And hopefully, between the 30th and 31st of next month, we are going to be having our convention, elective convention. Of course, the convention organizing committee was set up. Likewise, the zoning committee of our National Working Committee positions. And if you look at the composition of both committees, you see a reflection of the 6 geopolitical zones well represented. Of course, the chairman of the zoning committee, the governor of Enugu State, is from the southeast. His deputy, governor of Benue, Sam Olotom, from the north central. Of course, the secretary is the deputy governor of Zamfara, northwest. 3 geopolitical zones. Look at the convention organizing committee, headed by the governor of Adamawa, north central, Amadu Finintri. The deputy, the governor of Bayelsa, Doyu Diri, south, and of course, the secretary, the governor of Oyo State, Sheyi Makinde, southwest. So you find that we have already started this issue of zoning from the way the committee is composed. So the PDP is ready to rescue Nigeria from the present misrule of the APC. And of course, it reminds us of Charles Dickens' Tale of Two Cities. Remember in that prologue, he talked about the best of times and the worst of times. He talked about the season of light and the season of darkness. He talked about the spring of hope and winter of despair. And that is what PDP seeks to achieve with its umbrella, to rescue Nigeria from the season of darkness of the APC, from the worst of times of the APC, and the winter of despair of the APC, which was reflected in yesterday's visits of Mr. President. The streets of Imo were deserted.
Wait, hang on. Before you delve into all of that, did the meeting, the NEC meeting yesterday, did it solve or finally resolve the problem in the PDP, or did it put it on hold? Because I'm wondering how the aggrieved members of the party are taking what's going on in the party.
No, obviously, because
including the embattled...
The 92nd NEC meeting
national chairman
of the APC, where some of these decisions were taken, namely the issue of venue and the issue of dates, you discover that unlike the crisis in the APC, in the PDP, the embattled national chairman, of course, which the court confirmed the suspension, which is secondos. In spite of those court cases, remember that the latest came from Cross River that restrained him. Just yesterday, they were also in Lagos, and the court declined jurisdiction because of the way and manner this thing is going. And again, the political party should be allowed to govern its affairs. And the most important body, which is the NEC, and imagine the time within which the NEC has met. The NEC met, the 92nd meeting of the NEC was held on August 28th. And just yesterday, we had the other meeting where these committees were set up. So I don't think there's any crisis. The PDP is in charge of its affairs. In terms of internal democracy, we practice what we preach. We have another party, which is the ruling party, that has not been able to organize its convention.
All right.
And it is like the second coming of Christ. They have been talking about it for the past 2 years. So PDP has offered leadership. We have a National Working Committee. The APC does not have. We have a BOT. The AP does not have. And we're having our convention.
All right. Let's bring in Dr. Catch. Dr. Catch, it looks as if, with yesterday's events and developments, the crisis has been put to rest. That's the perception out there. But first of all, was there a need for the recent crisis that rocked the PDP? I'm going back a little bit so that we can prevent, a recurrence of this crisis.
No, I think that's not true. Politics dwells on crisis. What politics is about is an assemblage of citizens to resolve internal disagreements internal crisis. You can't have a human society without internal crisis. But when you agree to talk to resolve your issues, that means those natural expectations about human relations will always be resolved through such a consensus.
But there are some crises that, should be avoidable. For instance, why the rush? Why the desperation?
There was
why the desperation to kick out a man who just have few months?
I think you're getting it
to
wrong.
leave office.
No, it's not true. Our party noticed in Abuja an internal crisis from the River State branch of our party. And what we have done is to manage to make sure that problem from the River State branch, which still have not been resolved, does not undermine the party nationally. As my colleague told you, it's been rested. What he means is that the natural progression of who acts in case of the current court processes, we have resolved that. So the elder who is National Deputy Chairman South is now in charge, and that's that issue. But as for the court processes, the David Mark Committee has been appointed to look at it. He has seen it. It's an internal River State crisis. What we're trying to do is to make sure that internal crisis from our River State faction does not undermine what we do nationally. So we have just activated our laws, which says the National Deputy Chairman South takes over, and he is in charge, and that's why you seem to see a kind of peace in the process. But those in court are still in court, because as I speak to you, Chairman, our former chairman, Uche Secondus, is not yet there. Okay, so the court processes we saw yesterday, the courts refused, and then whatever he brought has been fine. So we are going on. Our processes for managing crisis has been activated, and those processes is the reasons why we have stability. The River State crisis is still there. So what we've done is to make sure that River State crisis has not torpedoed our progress as a national political party. That's all.
All right, Dr. Nonju, you need all the states to move on, even at the national level, because all states are important, particularly the governors of those states. So many people are asking, following what he asked earlier, would it have been easier to resolve that feud between that internal state you're talking about to not allow it to dovetail into other states? Because whether you like it or not, the national chairman also has followers from some other states who think he's being unduly let out of the national chairmanship status. So if he has only 2 months to end his tenure, that's what he's asking. Would it have been easier to resolve that and then not rush to bring up your convention and allow it to hold in December and then say have peace?
We have these internal mechanisms. Don't forget, we run a representative democracy. The chairman was sponsored by his state, River State. And now they're having some localized brethren versus brethren disagreements. We have activated processes that make sure we shield the national party from that. We're moving forward.
But the PDP in
It is
River
not
State,
for us
Dr. Kaj,
to tell the PDP in River State or the PDP in Sokoto State or the PDP in Bayelsa, don't ever have disagreements among yourselves. No. But what we have is a process that if such occurs, what do? We've activated our mechanism for making sure we shield it while they are still haggling in court. So we have moved on. The party is more than the state chapter from any state. So that's what we have done. But it's not for us to say nobody should suffer from malaria, nobody should have headache. No, we can't do that. Crises do occur. In human relations, disagreements do occur.
Dr. Kash,
and we recognize this.
The PDP is in River State is an integral part of the People's Democratic Party, even at the national level.
Yes.
So it looks as if you're trying to insulate one from, another.
I'm only telling you how it is. We cannot make a problem in Sokoto a national problem. Once we find there's a problem in Sokoto, we investigate. We try to shield it from undermining our national progression. That's what we've done. It's not that we have resolved it for them. No, we've simply shielded it so that it doesn't undermine our operation as a national political party. That's what we've done.
All right.
I don't think there's anything wrong in that.
Okay. Barrister Manta, we're still talking about, why secondus, why this push for secondus, of course, to leave as national chairman just a few months to the expiration of his term of office as party national chairman. You're a lawyer and also a member of the party. Is there anywhere in your party's constitution that stops an incumbent chairman from setting in motion the process for activities of convention and other political party activities?
I think it's a question of law if you want to look at the court orders that have been given so far. Of course, as my colleague rightly pointed out, they have some internal squabbles in Rivers. Remember, we had the same situation in Edo between my own governor and his predecessor, Oshomole, who was at the time the national chairman. And of course, the word from where Oshomole came removed him as national chairman. They suspended him as a member. And it was on the strength of that, some members of the party went to court, that you cannot continue as national chairman if you have been suspended as a member of that party, because your chairmanship is tied to your membership. So it was on the strength of that precedent what happened in Rivers happened. And of course, there was the first court order from Port Harcourt, which of course said he cannot continue as national chairman. Then he got one from Kebbi. Then before we had our NEC, there was another court order from Cross River that says, as national chairman, having lost your membership, you are hereby restrained, an interim order. And even to a very large extent said, you cannot even contest or seek second term as national chairman. So with that kind of court order, which is the current order of court, because yesterday's court order did not go through. So that was why we could continue with our NEC meeting. These issues will come up, but because PDP, as a law-abiding party, and if you notice, when that order came from KB, he was allowed to resume. But the moment the other order from Cross River came, he had to step aside, and he even did an authorization to the acting national chairman, Elder Yemi, giving him the authority to continue. Akinwumi, giving Elder Yemi the authority as the deputy national chairman from his own part of the country, because our constitution is such that if in the absence of the national chairman, the deputy national chairman from his particular region of the country, which in this case is South, takes over as acting national chairman. So I don't think there's any leadership crisis, because if Secondus was very embittered, I don't think he would have issued
I'm still wondering, Barrister. It was the PDP in Secondus' home state, Rivers, that nominated him for the position in the
sponsored him
for the position, in the first place. Have you been able to find out how come he fell out with stalwarts at his home base?
I don't think it's just people from Rivers State, because we feel that the party has lost 2 governors recently. I remember the reason why Oshomole was removed was that the party lost 8 states. So if we have dwindling fortunes, it borders on this issue of leadership. As a member of a party, I'm not the national chairman, but there are areas I've spotted in the present APC's government. The economy is gone. What was the exchange rate between the naira and the dollar when Jonathan took over in 2010? It was 150 naira. By the time Jonathan was leaving and the time Buhari took over in 2015, what was the exchange rate? 192. But what's the current exchange rate now? 535. Over 300 naira increase compared to the 42 naira increase. And the economy is such that the naira has lost its purchasing power. The level of insecurity is such that at the time PDP left power in 2015, the problem of insecurity was tied to the Northeast. But now it's a national problem. There's no part of Nigeria that is safe. Kidnappers have now controlled the security of this country to a point that people are afraid to go by road. I came to Abuja by air. Nobody travels by road again. Is it Kaduna? Is it Imo? The country, we are not at war. The worst insecurity we had before now was the Nigerian Civil War. And the current state of insecurity is even worse than that of the Nigerian Civil War, because people could move in the present Imo during the war. But yesterday, when the president visited, everybody was at home. So Nigeria is not at war. So that is the duty of PDP. We now have to rescue our country. We used to say the judiciary is the last hope of the common man, But unfortunately today, we can talk of PDP as the last hope of the common man. Because we need to be rescued. And that is what PDP is set to do come 2023.
Many people will take you up on that because the insecurity we're talking about didn't just start with this government, even though it appears to have escalated within this period. But we know that the first school abduction of school girls, Chibok, happened during the PDP government.
That was in the notice, but now you find that it's a national problem.
Yes.
It's now a total national problem.
Meaning it has escalated.
No place is safe again in Nigeria.
So, in trying to rescue the country, as you are talking about, the PDP has decided now to go for the convention and then sets itself ready for the upcoming election, particularly even in Anambra, which is very close. Let's look at the two committees that were set up yesterday by the NEC meeting and find out exactly what the expectations are from them, the convention organizing committee and that of the zoning committee.
Yeah, thank you. Because when you look at the leadership of both committees, the governor of Adamawa, being the chairman of the convention organizing committee, we know he will deliver. You know, he's a deputy, the governor of Bayelsa, and of course the secretary, the governor of Oyo, and these are governors that have performed very well. So we expect them to give us, organize a convention that will be peaceful. Remember, PDP, we've never really had serious crisis organizing conventions, starting from the one we had in Jos. And of course, this will set the tone of a new leadership in the party, because come 1st of November, we're going to have a brand new leadership. The National Working Committee that will help us go into 2022, especially the Anambra election, because that's the closest. And remember, just yesterday, INEC has confirmed that Valentine Ozigbo is a candidate of the PDP, right? And that is where the new National Working Committee that will be elected on the 30th and 31st of October will have its first baptism of fire to ensure that we win Anambra. And of course, next year we have other elections like the one in Ekiti and the one in Osun. So I can assure you that with the kind of arrangement PDP has, unlike the other party that has that level of uncertainty, we are out to rescue Nigeria. And again, for zoning, you discover that the zoning committee, we are not at, we've always had this convention. The issue of other positions beyond the position of party leadership is decided when, for instance, PDP wins the 2023 elections, which I believe is the case. Then, of course, other positions will be zoned. So the duty of this committee is to decide where the national offices will go. And we have a practice in the PDP. Assuming the position of national chairman is zoned to the south, it therefore means that the presidential candidates will come from the north. I say this because of our long history. Remember in 1999, Obasanjo was from the south. Our first national chairman, Solomon Dashipla, came from the north. And it went on like that. Even when Yar'Adua, a northern president, came into power in 2007, in 2008 March, Vincent Ugbolafo from the south became national chairman. So it is easy for Nigerians to tell where the PDP presidential candidate will come from the moment the issue of zoning of national offices is resolved. And it will be resolved before our convention. The committee will submit its report to NEC. And of course, once that report is ratified, we now know how these positions and where these positions will go.
Right, Dr. Kach, the crisis may have been resolved at the moment, but there are some persons within the party that are still aggrieved. Don't you think that in addition to the two committees that were set up and inaugurated yesterday, shouldn't the NEC have set up and inaugurated a reconciliation committee to pacify those who are aggrieved at the moment?
Of course there is. We have a reconciliation committee. That's a committee headed by Senator David Mark. So, and that's why you've seen this issue has been arrested by now. So the David Mark committee has been traveling around and listening to different people who have cases. That's why you've seen the case has been arrested and have been kept in the courts where they are. If not, it will have snowballed into the party and disrupted a lot of things. So I think the party has done that, and we don't have any issues in that regard.
All right, the party is setting itself towards winning elections in some states, which it has lost. We do know that within this period, some of the issues that has led to the problem that the National Party chairman had, that's which is Secondos, were part the fact that some people who won their governorship seats on your platform had to leave the party without you guys being able to hold them back. So now Anambra election is coming forward. What will the PDP do differently? Don't forget that even at the primaries we had issues with court cases and counter-court cases, which almost marred the primary elections there.
I could tell you confidently the defections were due to the heavy-handed use of federal agencies to hound our party members. That's the reason. I've said it before on this particular station. It is the use of the EFCC to force challenged members into defecting for their, as Chairman Oshomole once said, for their sins to be forgiven. That's what you're saying. We don't really think...
Meaning they were sinners, right?
Oh, yes. A lot of them had integrity challenges at the EFCC. And as a polite way for you to buy peace and freedom, as Chairman Oshomole said, once you come over to the APC, your sins were forgiven. A lot of those we couldn't really do a thing. Because if you're telling a man whose wife is being harassed not to deal with the APC, would you be able to buy peace for his wife if the EFCC keeps going after his family, or for his commissioners, or for his family members? A lot of these defections are actually forced by the strong arm tactics of the Buhari administration. You need to understand.
But you don't need to be afraid of the EFCC if your hands are clean. They say he who goes there with goes there with clean hands. So does that mean that the people whom the PDP have put in power before now, do have skeletons in their cupboard?
Well, it's very difficult for you to be interrogated without them having one or two mistakes committed by somebody underneath you. If a chief executive and a commissioner is being interrogated, fears could race to your heart that from this commissioner it will get to me, and if they do me the Taisholani game, whatever occurs inside a department where I am head of, I become solely responsible. And that kind of thing frightens politicians into jumping ship. That has been the case in this. For you to ask me, why don't we have perfect operators? I don't believe anybody's perfect. If you are a governor and you have several commissioners and any of them does something that the law could interrogate, they could start coming towards you. For you to have peace, as Oshomole said, cross over to the APC and your sins will be forgiven. So it's not like we don't know what's going on. We know. And a lot of those defections were induced.
That brings me to asking you what the PDP would do differently to ensure that at least people who man positions of authority going forward, because EFCC will be there for as long as you can think, and may also be used against whoever commits crime in the future. So
no, not commit crime. Whoever is accused of. These are accusations, don't forget that. Right now, as I'm talking to you, a lot of our leaders are being harassed as I'm speaking to you this minute. So you've only heard about the defection of those who don't want to go through the rigor. There are those who go through the rigor and see they don't get incriminated, they don't get convicted. But there are those who are very afraid. The minute you are told stories without even going to defend yourself, or without even standing to scrutinize your records and defend those records with them, you start getting afraid. That is at the heart of the harassment currently ongoing across the country right now. And that's, for me, don't call them, no. These are people being harassed. So those harassments does not mean that those people are guilty. A lot of our leaders are not guilty. You don't just, but because some don't want to go through the rigors of fighting such EFCC's dirty, arm twisting strategies, some just walk across. And when they walk across, what do you ask me to do? What can we do? I don't think we've yet designed strategies. I think the right thing for the party to do is to set up an in-house defense team. Whoever is harassed, before you even go to ask him, how are you, what happened, let the defense people run there to their aid. Because when a man is harassed and nobody comes around him, some people could buckle, and then you hear about defections. So if you will ask me, I would say the PDP should keep a standing army of lawyers. Whoever is touched, the lawyers will spring into action. Once a man sees people are with him, say, no, please, he can't talk until he talks to his lawyer. What is it? I'm not guilty. And you start fighting, because these cases don't get concluded in a month or 2 or 1 year. They take time. Right. So it is the fact that different human beings react differently to such harassments. Right. That's why you see those, harassment-induced crossovers. Right. Not that they are guilty. Our members, most are not guilty.
But I wonder, you talked earlier about the zoning, and the new line of thinking is that, political parties in Nigeria should begin to consider adopting merit in producing its leaders and, of course, candidates. Is it too early or premature for a party like the People's Democratic Party to begin to rise above the sentiments of the zoning arrangement?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I want to say that our democracy is still young, and because of the very diverse nature of Nigeria, we have a multi-ethnic, society where, if we are to go by merit, you discover that the majority will always dominate, and that is not one of the beauties of our democracy. Remember in 1998, when we got back to the path of democracy, and the fact that we still had the wounds of June 12, it was that same year the late MKO was allegedly, killed. I mean, in very suspicious circumstances. He drank tea. And at that time, the only way to assuage the feelings of people of his zone, particularly the people of the South too, was to allow the position of president to go to the Southwest. And that was why in 1999, both political parties, the merger between the APC and the AD and the PDP, presented candidates from the Southwest. And of course, Obasanjo now defeated him. And the beauty of that is that Obasanjo lost almost everywhere. He lost his ward, lost his House of Assembly constituency, lost his states, lost his senatorial districts, even lost his zone, but he became president. So you discover that there's still some merit in zoning if we have quality candidates. And Nigerians are very enlightened to know who they will vote for. Even if you bring somebody from a particular area that is not competent, I can tell you that the other zone will get it. But I think it is for political convenience, because we have 6 geopolitical zones. And look at, between 1999 to date, there are still some zones that have not produced president for Nigeria. The Southeast is number 1. You have the North Central, you have the Northeast. So how do you now take care of people from this area, if not by zoning?
Okay, so I think it brings me to the question of what the PDP is thinking, at the moment about the zoning arrangements ahead of the next general elections. Between 1999 and 2015, it was the South. No, 1999 to 2007, it was the Southwest. Then it went to the North. In 2015, it went to the North. It was zoned to the North. The ticket was zoned to the North. What feelers are you getting as to where the PDP might be going in 2023?
I gave you a hint, and for a discerning mind, it is a duty of the zoning committee, of which I'm not a member. I gave you a hint. Apart from being a lawyer, I'm very good when it comes to looking at history, because even in law, we use precedents as a way of establishing what will now become the case in this present case, because the court cannot go outside established precedent. And most parties are governed by convention. Even in Britain, where we gained independence from. In Great Britain, it is the leader of the party that wins the election that becomes prime minister. So using that same political trajectory, I've given you instances in the past where if the North produces the president, the South produces the national chairman. It is not clearly written in black and white in our PDP constitution, but that appears to be our convention. I give you the historical, excursion. In 1999, when Obasanjo, even before Obasanjo emerged, the national chairman was Solomon Dashipla. from the north, Obasanjo from the south emerged as national chairman. Who was Solomon Lars' successor? Another northerner, Barnabas Gemade, who took over in 2002. Who was his successor? Audu Ogbe, though he later defected to ACN. Let's take it to 2007 when a northerner emerged as president of Nigeria. The following year, March 2008, we had a national convention. Somebody from the southeast emerged, Vincent Ugbolafo. Take it up to Jonathan. During the Jonathan era, we had McAfee, much as, Modu Sheriff created crisis still from the north. So you discover we've always had a situation where if the position of national chairman is known to the south, the presidential candidate naturally will come from the north. And that is the balance of power we have. So by the time the zoning committee comes up with their report, I don't want to guess what that report will be.
Exactly.
So if it is A that is national chairman, you can tell where the presidential candidate will come from, which naturally will be B.
Okay, let me take you back a bit to what Dr. Ononju said earlier about people who are leaving your party, at some point, even, and not just the governors, even, remember, the houses of assembly in some places, members, you have even some National Assembly members also defecting. Some are actually citing reasons. Let's look at the case of Anambra State because it's the next election that is coming. One of your what do you call them now, aspirants, on the platform of the PDP, Obiora Okonkwo, had to leave and is now pitching his tent with the Zenith Labour Party, citing the fact that the primaries didn't go the way it should go, So, do you think that if there had not been issues with the primaries, there had not been any challenge, that people like that, even though they lose at the primary, would have still stayed in the party and helped to strengthen the party towards this election?
Though politics does not really evoke that sense of a commercial venture, like in a commercial venture, you have gains and losses. Remember that we had a similar, not just really a similar situation, but remember in the Edo election, in the build up to that election, my boss, the governor, was a member of the APC, a promising member, the vice chairman of a progressive governors forum. But because the national chairman of the APC at that time didn't want him to come back, he was disqualified unlawfully. He was disqualified in a very brazen manner. What did he do? He joined the PDP. Was that not gain for the PDP? Before that time, the PDP had gained many states through some of the crises within the APC that could not be resolved. We won Zamfara, we won Bayelsa, I can go on and on. Even in general elections, we won. Most of those members of the PDP that left, remember before the 2015 general elections, the likes of Senator Saraki, Otom, and many others left, but most of them came back. So for me as an individual, I don't think that is an issue. The issue is how prepared are the two political parties. PDP is ready to gain back power. PDP has a national working committee. It has a BOT. And mind you, these are the two critical parts of a political party. The national working committee is the soul of a political party. The BOT is the spirit. But the APC does not have these two. So if you don't have a spirit and a soul, you cannot exist. No, what they have is a convention, an extraordinary convention planning committee headed by a governor. That violates the provision of Section 183 of the Constitution.
The PDP, let me put a question.
They're not the same. One is a national political party. The other one is a political coalition progressively trying to become a national political party.
True.
But no, was trashed by Buhari after he emerged candidate. Refused to allow them to actually be in charge of government. And that's why you see, till tomorrow, the APC has not yet progressed into a national political party. So, and that's why you're seeing this crisis, like the ethnic cleansings Buhari does. These are not policies of the APC as a political party. And that's why it's wrong for you to see the PDP, a national political party, in the same as APC, a coalition that has not yet progressed into becoming
but the APC won elections in 2015 and won in 2019.
No, that's
the PDP
because
failed in 2015.
That is because
also lost in
there
2019.
was an internal implosion in the PDP, which got some PDP members to go and bring Buhari to power. That is the fact. And when they saw Buhari didn't want a political party to situate, they ran away. These were politicians that had been used to PDP's way for 16 years. When they got to APC and saw this coalition, we already won't allow it to progress into a national political party that is inclusive of the aspirations of all Nigerians. That's why you're seeing the APC is a still bet.
If you say they want to bring the Buhari in power, Nigerians are the ones that vote. And I remember at that time, many
there are things we have seen now. There are things we have seen that didn't tell us Nigerians voted, like the killing and burning in Kano of the wreck. A lot of those things happened. It's only now we're seeing. We didn't know who masterminded the Chibok girls kidnap. Now we know the people are those that belong to the Islamist faction of the political elite. So there are things we didn't know before. When Boko Haram started, we didn't understand it. When the crisis started in the northeast, northwest, we didn't understand it. Now we can see it. Because those who actually champion this insurgency are actually in government for the first time in Nigeria's history, and we could see them defending those things. So you learn every day, and when you learn, you make up your mind.
So as a government in power, you didn't understand the dynamics of a security threat?
No. The truth was, not as a government in power. A lot of us Nigerians were honestly very naive about the intentions of some who did not agree to democracy because they have been very used to power. And right now, democracy was not challenging them because they didn't have numbers to maintain and sustain their positions of entitlement. And what did they do? Start national violence as a way to seize country. They don't even want to share Nigeria with us. And that's where we are right now. People are being killed.
Dr. Iwanta, let's stay in focus. The PDP will be going into an election on November 6th in a zone that is seen to have sympathy for a particular political party. Does the PDP have a chance this time around in Anambra State?
The question is, in whose hands was the power position that is up for grabs in November? It was PDP that emerged in 1999 as the foremost political party in that state. And remember, there was even a crisis sometime in 2003 where a sitting governor was removed through a coup. Or rather, I think that was sometime 2005 in Gige, when an AIG, Ige, the late Ige, removed a sitting governor. I think the PDP has learned its lessons. The PDP of 2015 is not the present PDP, because those who left realized that where they went to, it reminds me of that parable of a widow who married the late husband's driver. That is where they thought they went to, but they now realize that APC is not what they thought it was. They thought it was a married woman who was married to a man. They never knew that it was a widow who married the driver of the late husband. So we have learned our mistakes. And if you don't marry a second wife, you don't appreciate the importance of the first. Nigerians have tasted APC. Even the ABGA we talk of, ABGA has, by the time the present governor's tenure ends, ABGA will expire, just the way APC will expire in 2023. PDP remains the most nationalistic political party in terms of spread. Our governors, in terms of positions in National Assembly, I mean, we have that national spread. And I assure you, the people of Anambra, because we already have 2 senators from that area, the one defected recently, for the same reasons adduced by my brother, litigation, prosecution induced, defection. So I assure Nigerians that PDP is the party to beat come November 6th, when the people of Anambra will come out to vote.
All right.
And they have to...